Good day, radio listeners. Welcome to this edition of the Pure Sex Radio broadcast. We're glad to have you with us. My name is Jonathan. I'm here with my friend Stephen Cervantes. How are you today?
I am well. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it's a good day to be alive.
Beautiful day.
We're recording this really kind of at the end of February, and we're here in San Antonio, Texas, and we would hate to tell all of our friends in the north what kind of weather we're having today. It's like, 70, 75 degrees,
Beautiful,
sunny,
sunshiny.
And so this is the time of year I love living in San Antonio, Texas. But don't worry, all of those of you who are up north, you'll get to return the favor when it's August.
That's right.
And it's 105 here, and we're melting.
That's it.
So we're glad you're with us. And, Stephen, I'm excited about what you put in front of me here. And what we're going to talk about this time around in terms of just, what to do in the middle of the battle.
We're all going to be caught up sooner or later, surprised, attacked. As part of this battle, we're sexual beings. We can't not be sexual beings. And we live in an over-sexualized culture. And so what are you going to do when the temptation is on? What are you going to say? How are you going to act? And so I just put together a list of ideas. What are some things? And you could add to the list and make your own list. It'd be great to have a list. If you're a guy that really struggles, to pull out your list and go down your list in the middle of the battle.
Yeah.
Because the tendency is to surge and then to lose control.
I have to tell a story on there are a couple guys in the group that I'm part of every week, and one of the guys had come and said, man, it seems like, wouldn't it be great to have something like literally in your back pocket whenever the temptation strikes? And so he started coming up with these ideas or whatever, and he had shared this with the group of saying, hey, you know what, I think I'm going to try to think of some things. Well, he'd kind of missed the group for a while for various reasons, and this other guy in the group one week when we're doing kind of our check-in time, we go into smaller groups. Well, I happen to be in his check-in group, and he says, well, I hope so-and-so isn't upset, but I actually brought these. And he pulled out these little slips of paper that had like 6 things on there of like, hey, man, you just put this in your back pocket. And it was just things like, to avoid the second look, don't take the first look. And, just things like that. There were things you could pull out, either whether it's in the moment or just pull out throughout the day to go, this is my battle plan. This is kind of what I'm going to do.
Just the very act of pulling out something from your pocket is an exercise in control.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's right.
It's a discipline, yeah.
Yeah, it's a discipline. That's excellent. And to have to read and focus on those words is a shift out of where you are. Mm-hmm. So we should add that to the list, right?
Yeah, I thought it was
great.
Carry
something in your pocket.
And the little sidebar to that is I think they modeled an excellent practice to employ in a group setting. Share your ideas. Be willing to explore that. Don't think that whoever is the quote-unquote leader of the group is the only one that can bring ideas and bring insights.
Yes.
And so I thought they did a great job of modeling that, what a true group and team is really about.
So number 1, breathe. Breathe. Focus on your breathing. Think about breathing. Just breathe. It's so simple, but it gives you a focus about concentrate on your breathing. Pay attention to your breathing right now. Is it going fast or slow? Focus on something other than the temptation and get in touch with your body, because are you racing? Are you surging? Are you panicking? Are you flooding with fear? Breathe through this first second and the next second. Breathe for 3 or 4 seconds, right? Create some space. What do you think?
Well, I'm focusing on my breathing over here now. So.
That's good.
Actually, it's funny because as you were telling me that, I was like, okay, listen, I'm going to exercise this right now. As Stephen is saying, focus on your breathing. So I started focusing on my breathing. And what I found interesting is it really did cause everything else to kind of fall away. It's like you get a singular focus on something that seems so simple, right? I mean, we don't think about our breathing, right?
Right.
So to then force your mind to think about your breathing, it really pushes everything else out And so it's kind of a good mental exercise, but I also found myself just kind of relaxed in my body. Just it's a simple thing. I mean, you have to breathe to stay alive, right?
Yes.
So I think it's a great when I saw this on the page, breathe, 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 I thought, well, that's kind of stating the obvious, isn't it? I mean, to stay alive, you've got to breathe.
Yes. You're not going to make it if you don't.
Right.
That's right.
But to just also then intentionally focus on it, it really does push out all other thoughts.
And a very simple thing that you just repeat,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just do one thing and repeat one thing, right? And that'd be great if you had a Bible verse. You could repeat your Bible verse, right? You could breathe into your Bible verse. So, number one, just breathe and hold the moment. Number two, we have to realize when our core emotional fear, temptation, anxiousness is firing. I mean, our whole body gets caught up. We get tense, right? And we have to bring on our resource brain to ask, do I want to throw a fit right now, or do I want to hold the course? You know what you're doing. You were doing really good 5 minutes ago. But right now you can throw a big emotional fit, a sexual fit, or you can hold the course. Mm-hmm. So you gotta recognize what's happening in your body, because there's a surge of pleasure and delight and fun, and sometimes we don't manage ourselves very well.
You know, Stephen, one of the things I've always loved about you and appreciated about you is your ability to take really quite complicated things that are going on in a person's system, but then simplify the solutions. Because how complicated and complex can a core fear be? I mean, because think about all the things it can be attached to in terms of history and circumstance and pain and wounds and all these kind of stuff. But what you're saying here is providing a simple, not simplistic, but a simple solution for that is saying, what's the choice that you have when that's firing off? Because I know that for me, listen, when my core fear fires off, I'm such a kind of a solution and action-driven person that I want to kind of take the bull by the horns and let's, push through and we're going to make something happen, And what I've had to learn is this simple idea of holding, taking a 3-second pause, just doing something that shifts the immediacy of wanting to jump into the solution orientation.
Oh, that's good. Yes,
helps
slow
me,
that down.
What it does, it helps me recognize what's happening in the present instead of jumping into the future and jumping to what's not. And so I think, again, I just appreciate the fact that it's a simple solution, but it can have a huge impact in the moment.
And I really need to back this up as I'm reading this. When I wrote this down a while back, what is a core fear? I don't feel loved. I don't feel valued. I'm exhausted. Nobody's taking care of me. So a fantasy will show up and say, well, I'll take care of you, right? But we don't want to throw a fit and do stupid things. We want to know, I'm really in a low spot right now, and I don't feel very loved. And I'm afraid I'm not going to be loved well, because all my life I wanted to be loved well. I've never felt loved very well, right? That's why I say that core stuff going on.
And also, one of the things that has helped me in this is I've seen things from a completely different perspective as a father than when I was not a dad. And what I mean by that is I sometimes I will frame up the core fears that I might be feeling or that might be firing off and ask myself, how would I respond to my children if they came to me with their core fears firing off?
Oh, yes.
And so it keeps me from thinking in terms of shame or control or those kind of things. Because I'm thinking, if my kids come to me and they go, Daddy, I'm afraid.
Right.
Do I go figure it out, go get, do your own thing? Yeah. I'm like, I embrace them and I pull them in. And so I think about that with my Heavenly Father. I think about that with the safe people in my life it's okay to bring your fear out and not let it overwhelm you.
It's healthy to bring your fear out.
Yeah.
We have to face our fears. We have to label our fears. We have to know our fears, right? Mm-hmm. And we operate much better when we do that. Then we go, oh, I'm afraid, run. Because this whole idea that we're exhausted people and we're giving ourselves to our job and to our family and we're sacrificing, and sometimes we just want comfort.
Right.
You just pour yourself out. I mean, the church will zap you. Do this, do that, go, 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 right? Give, stand up, and do all these things. And then go home, and the yard is calling, the house is calling, your kids, your wife, and the car needs, and the garage needs, and you're just pouring out. Where do you get your comfort, right? So we have to really make sure we're doing healthy comfort and intimacy and connectedness, so we don't do pseudo.
Would it be safe to also say that another way to say that, maybe it's not saying the same thing, but another way to say that is that our system needs rest?
Yes, absolutely.
And they might not be exactly the same thing,
no,
comfort and rest, but they go together.
No, but we want to rest well, be at peace with ourselves, and we want to be loved well. We want those two things. Right? Because we fight hard. We want to rest well and not just sit by ourselves. We want somebody to wrap themselves around us and say, man, you're great. We want to be loved well. So I think sometimes if you just say, you know what, I'm being triggered right now. I'm being triggered right now. You know, because I'm in a weak place. Arousal is high. Beauty's in my face. My sexual system wants to jump up and solve it with some sexual solution. Man, I'm just being triggered right now.
And, you know, I think this is helpful for those of us out here who are control-oriented, meaning like, again, when things happen in life, we feel this sense of needing to take control.
Mm-hmm.
This idea, it allows for weakness. It allows for vulnerability. It's calling out the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, as soon as I read that, say I'm being triggered, my immediate response kind of in my gut is, I don't want to say that. I want to get past that. I want to be able to, conquer that temptation. You know what I mean?
Good.
And so the idea is just to be able to state that for anybody out there who has that sense of, I've got to be in control. I've got to make the right decisions. I've got to be powerful. This is a great way to embrace humility and go, at the end of the day, I'm flesh. I'm weak. I'm dust. And so to be able to acknowledge that I'm being triggered is to actually identify with my human brothers and sisters that we're all in this same condition of weakness and frailty and need, and to just be able to call out a trigger is a simple way of acknowledging that.
And you know what? I'm going to play with this idea that early on trust is broken in us. And when trust is broken, what that means is who we were was not enough. Who we were is not okay. Because you tried to do something, you made a mistake, you got punished, right? Whoever you were, whatever you're doing was not enough. So when your trust is broken early, you don't want to ever be vulnerable again. And so most of us are afraid to be vulnerable. But it's just what you said. How are we going to be healthy and whole if we can't realize that we have weaknesses and we're vulnerable?
Mm-hmm.
If we have to be strong all the time, we have to look strong, talk strong, be around strong people, always strong, strong, strong. Well, there's a weakness in that, and if we don't own it...
Well, you know what's interesting is that unwillingness to do that actually plays into the one we just mentioned about our system needing comfort. How can you receive comfort if you're the one that's always got to be in control and you've got to charge for it, and you're closing yourself off to people being able to embrace you and being able to comfort you?
You act like you don't need it, right? You're the fixer. You got a solution. You can take care of this. But who takes care of you, right? The problem is, if we don't take care of ourselves in healthy ways, we're going to go drink too much alcohol, right?
And the reason
eat too much bad food.
And the reason I know a lot about these two is because I live here. I can see my wife right now listening to this podcast, because she listened to the podcast, and I can see her nodding her head. I mean, she's not even here, but I can see her nodding her head.
And what is she nodding to?
That idea that, hey, listen, I want to be the strong control. And so therefore sometimes it means I'm not as open to receiving comfort because I want to be the one that's out front and charging forward and conquering the mountain.
But if we don't own that and know that and take, then we're going to go get pseudo care.
Well, there's a reason.
Fantasy care.
There is absolutely a reason why God brought me the wife He did, is because she does comfort well. Like her system is built for wanting to embrace and wanting to care and all that. So God knew I needed a woman that was very strong in that area to kind of balance my weakness in this area.
So it's really important to pay attention to your deep needs, because if you know what your needs are, then you could sort of get them taken care of in a healthy way. So I want to be loved. And not only that, I want to be enjoyed. And my wife says to me, "Hey, boyfriend." And it's like, ooh, that's sort of edgy. We're married now, but you're still calling me your boyfriend. You're like enjoying me.
Yeah.
To keep it fresh and playful, you know?
Yeah.
That speaks deeply to my core. I want to be loved and enjoyed and embraced and pursued, right? And spoken over well. Right? That helps us reduce the need to go get goofy, cheap solutions.
Yeah. I would say that, as you're saying that, I was sitting over here thinking, okay, what would my, deep emotional needs be? And I think what typically rises to the top for me is this idea of desiring to be respected, and not in some kind of, lorded over people kind of way, but just the idea of a respectable man. And the reason I think I have that deep desire is in some ways because I spent so much of my life being not someone that's respectable. Mm-hmm. And so, but I also think there's a deep need for affirmation. And I see that in a lot of the men that we deal with. This deep need, because, think about the wounds that men carry when they come to us, and how many of them, man, it goes back to father wounds and mother wounds, and this idea that they were not affirmed in the sense of your existence is enough for me. Not you're only affirmed if you score the touchdown or if you get the A or you get. So I believe this is probably a core need in every human being, but I think especially in the men that we deal with that come to our ministry, that idea of affirmation that man, I'm proud of you and you're good, and I'm excited about you.
I like what you said when you said I'm a doer, because respect goes with doers and accomplished, right? That's all insane. And then you took it deeper. I really want to be affirmed. So that on one level, I think respect, that's right. Well, isn't he a respectable man? Can he do and accomplish? Isn't he strong, right? That fits all that behavioral stuff. But what's the deeper need to be affirmed at a deep level? Because, look, if all you're doing and they go, oh, good job, go do more. Okay, good job, go do more. That's not satisfying.
Yeah.
Even when they say, oh, you did a good job, we respect you, go do more, it doesn't really fill that deep place.
But when you know that all the wheels could come off and everything be over tomorrow, in the sense of everything that comes crashing down in terms of the doing.
Yes.
To know that there's people around me that go, man, I'm on your team. I'm for you. And
even if you didn't do anything good today,
exactly.
You didn't do anything, we still like you,
Yeah.
That's the affirmation. That's the deeper, right? Now, we're talking about when you're tempted, but I'm about to change the topic. And since it's our program, we can do whatever we want, right? Because I had this other thought.
Well, I was actually going to say we need a little podcast production conversation here, because I think this is a two-parter.
Oh, you think so? Okay. So this thought has occurred to me, and I haven't said it much, but I want to say it right now because I want to get your thought on this idea. I don't want to just be enjoyed as a man. I want my sexuality to be enjoyed. I want to be sexual, and I want it to be okay, and I want my wife to enjoy my sexuality and affirm me at the sexual level too.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that statement?
Amen. I mean, I actually think, I think there's some things that we struggle to simply state, especially in the church. What you just said right there, I think could very easily and should be said from the pulpit. And, of course, you'd have people passing out all over the place. But I think, there's nothing that you said there that makes me think, boy, that's odd. That's out of the ordinary. I think what it is I think it's something that we need to hear and we need to say that's, from the very beginning, God said, I'm going to make man in my image. Male and female, he created them. There is something in the dynamic of our sexuality as male and female. And then there's something even further in the union of that male and female human being that God said that is the fullest picture of my image. And so there is actually a sexual component there, because he says when a man leaves his father and mother is united to the wife, the two shall become one.
Yes.
And what is God? He says, I'm Father, Son, and Spirit, but I am one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do believe that sexuality is absolutely an affirmation of the image of God. So it's only natural then, in the spiritual sense, that we want to be affirmed in our sexuality.
And, have our sexuality enjoyed. Because it's like, as little boys, don't touch yourself.
Right.
What are you doing? That's bad. Sexuality is bad. Don't. Right? We hear very few things about sexuality being okay, and we should really enjoy our sexuality. And wouldn't you like to be enjoyed on all levels, including your sexuality?
And the problem is we take that and extrapolate it outside of the boundaries that God has set and think that enjoyment of sexuality should be on our terms. So I should be able to enjoy my sexuality in whatever way I want to.
Yes.
And obviously then we get in all kinds of trouble.
Right. But I'm still thinking about all the dialogues about sexuality. Pervert.
Right.
Weirdo. Addict. What's wrong with you? Why are you so sexual? Is that all you think about is sex? Right? I mean, we are shamed as men for being sexual beings. Mm-hmm. Now, we might be those things. We may be full of testosterone and think about sex a lot. It may be true, but it's like if you get in a union and your manhood is enjoyed and your being the provider's enjoyed and being a husband's enjoyed and your sexuality is enjoyed too. It's like a whole package of this oneness thing. Mm-hmm. We don't leave part of it out. Oh, that's bad. God made that, but that is bad. Don't do right. It really is part of the whole package. So that's one of my side.
So back to how to deal with temptation.
I've got to throw one in here right now, just the one that comes to my mind. I talk to myself and I say, you know what you're doing, don't you? You know what you're doing right now. Because if I'm in a grocery store and somebody came out and they're in their workout clothes and they're all tight and buff and they're standing in front of me, I go, wow, that looks good. Now remember, you can say, you get one look. Beauty's beauty. I mean, we're not going to lie to ourselves and go, oh, that's ugly. Right? You can say, beauty is beauty, but it's what happens next, right? And that's when I say, okay, you know what you're doing. Move along. You can't stay here. Keep pushing. You know you don't need bread down the bread aisle.
Right,
you have to go down the cereal aisle now, right? I have to talk to myself, right? Because the TV show will come on and they'll be waving at me saying, hi, look at us. You know what I mean? It's like I have to do some self-talk in that moment.
I spend a lot of time on the foot fungus aisle in the grocery store.
That is good.
Anyway.
So another thing besides breathe is hold. Just hold where you are. Hold, because the next thing that happens is critical. Hold. You can repeat any word. Wait. Stop. Jesus. But we need enough of a repetition to rebalance our system.
Sure.
So we don't fire off the sexual machinery and go off that way.
Mm-hmm. And again, these are just some, they're so simple, but it's just about having these things in your arsenal to be able to employ them when you need them. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to kind of fill up your resource bank,
Yes.
so that you can use any one of these tools as you face temptation and as you're dealing with the difficulties of repairing a relationship or whatever else. How do you deal with the temptations that are part of that?
So I remind myself that I'm really loved, and I'm really well loved. Somehow there's no program in boys about more, better, new, about discontentment with what you have.
Right.
Right? And so we have to remind ourselves, I'm really loved well. I'm loved well. I'm fine. Because there's some part of us that it's like, who doesn't want a shiny new toy? Right? Who doesn't? I'll talk girl talk. Who doesn't want a new pair of shoes? Who doesn't want a new outfit? Who doesn't want a new look? New and fun, and it's right. And we have to be careful with that.
Yeah. Now I want to tie this to something that I've heard you say many times over the years. We actually did a broadcast on it a long time back. I'm not sure how far back. But I remember the first time I heard you say it, and I thought, man, and I've repeated it 1,000 times in my head. And this idea, because what I feel like is along with this idea of wanting to be loved is, I want deep contentment in my soul.
Yes.
And you had these things that you have said, which is, my God is enough.
Yes.
My wife is enough. I have enough, and I am content. And so that's one of those things that
I like that.
Thinking about this resource bank
That's
or this
good.
arsenal, that's one that
Yes.
I've used over and over and over again when I'm feeling that temptation of just discontentment or just you don't have enough, or you know what, God doesn't seem to be coming through here. Maybe He's not enough,
Oh, that's
or
good.
or maybe
he got a new car
Yeah.
and a big house, and they're taking another trip, and they got all the, and it's like, hey, I'm working for God here, right? I mean, there's something in our flesh that wants to say, hey, this ain't right. It ain't right.
Right,
Stomp
right.
around. Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Right? And you're saying contentment. Man, it's powerful. When you can rest well and have contentment.
And so, listeners, write this down. My God is enough. My wife is enough. I have enough, and I am content. And that's a great thing to just kind of repeat in your mind when you're feeling that those feelings of discontent come up. So, Stephen, I think we are going to definitely have to break this one into, because there's a lot of other great tools and tips and things that we want to share with you that you can put in your arsenal, in your resource bank, for kind of how to respond to temptation and just the various things that are going to try to derail you in your ongoing pursuit of purity. So be looking for that second podcast on this to be coming up. But if you'd like to just get in touch with us, or even better, if you'd like to share with us some of your tips, the things that you have found that have been helpful for you, because, hey, we're all in this thing together, then please send those to mypoint@puresexradio.com. That's mypoint@puresexradio.com. And we look forward to seeing you back here again next time on the Pure Sex Radio broadcast.
Thanks.
Pure Sex Radio is paid for by Be Broken Ministries. Visit us online at puresexradio.com.